January 30th at Carmen's, Blue Jeans and Bling, an intimate night with Chicago. Proceeds go to the Good Shepherd Center. I have the pleasure of hosting that night. I can tell you, as a fan of Chicago for over 40 years, it's such an honor to speak with this man, one of the original members on the trumpet, Lee Loughnane. Lee, first of all, thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Ted, and thanks for thinking of us and inviting us to the event. We're very excited about coming to Canada again and being able to give something back. It's always beneficial for us we've taken a lot from the business throughout our career, and it's wonderful to be able to give something back.
Lee, I wanted to go way back to the beginning, February 15th, 1967. You, Jim, Danny, Terry, and Robert met at Walt Parazader's apartment. You made a pact. You said, you know what, guys, let's see where this takes us. Lee, coming up on 45 years later, who knew?
Who knew? It took us a lot of places, and apparently the trip's not over yet.
You guys rehearsed in Walt Mom's basement, Lee. Now, there's a classic story making the rounds about a big pot of chili on the stove. Ostensibly, it was supposed to be for Walt's dad's dinner. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out that way. I think you guys proved what the term starving musicians was all about.
That's right. Well, I think it was the family dinner, and we just became the interim family. And by the time he got home, I don't know what he had. He probably had like a Swanson's TV dinner or something.
Was he mad?
I don't remember. I think he was fine with it. If you hear good music, what's the thing? So he went out and got a burger or something, you know?
Lee, you guys have 4 weeks off for the Christmas break. I'm curious. I know you're perfectionists, but did you pick up the trumpet at all in that 4-week break to stay sharp, or did you just kind of detach yourself completely?
Oh, no, I try to keep it in my face all the time. Any brass player knows that if you don't play for a goodly amount of time, you have to build back to where you were before you can continue to improve. So it's not something that you can just put down and expect to be there every time you feel like playing.
Lee, my 19-year-old daughter and I have a Christmas tradition. We drive around at night, look at the Christmas lights, and we just talk about stuff. And one of the CDs I always put first is one of your first Chicago Christmas CDs, Chicago 25. Mm-hmm. We're driving around, Child's Prayer came on, and she started singing along to that song. Now, we've played this for years, and I said to her, we've listened to this song for years. I'm surprised that you still know it word for word. And she goes, Dad, it is really a great song. Quite a compliment to you, because I know you wrote that song.
I did. I co-wrote that with John Durrill, and it was great being able to record it, and I'm very happy that other people are enjoying it as well.
Now, I also wanted to mention that on 25, you worked with a couple of new singers named Dylan and River Loughnane. And and you also, on the upcoming just released Chicago Christmas CD, which we'll talk about in a sec, you worked with kids that had the last name Panko, Chef, and Howland. I'm wondering, was it fun working with kids, or was it kind of trying to, rein in cattle?
No. The kids are very receptive to learning as opposed to many adults. And so they take direction very nicely. And once you rehearse them just a little bit, everybody's ready to go, and 1 or 2 takes and it's done. The excitement comes from the dads coming in with cameras rather than instruments for a change. So they're more interested in getting candid shots of their kids than they are of the recording process.
Lee, on Christmas 3, your just released Chicago Christmas CD, the term you use is you Chicagoize the songs.
Yeah.
The version of I'll Be Home for Christmas, the brass arrangements, they almost sounded big bandish. And again, we're driving around and we heard that song, and I cranked it up, and my daughter, and by the way, we have tickets for your show at Massey Hall on January 4th. She looked at me when she heard the horns, and she just looked at me and said, wow. Jimmy Pankow, I keep saying this, he's a genius, but to get that big band sound on that particular song, again, kudos.
Thank you very much. Well, Jimmy was going exactly for a big band sound, and we did it in two sections. There were two sessions, I guess, two different parts that we put together. And so one part to me sounds like the brass section, and the other sounds like the saxophone section. And it's interesting the way Jimmy writes, because he has these things envisioned in his head, and he doesn't know for sure if they're going to come out until we actually play them and listen back. So thank you very much. I guess it worked.
And should also mention that on that CD, my favorite song, What Are You Doing New Year's Eve, I thought Jason Scheff nailed the vocal and the flugelhorn you threw in. Again, that song puts chills down my back.
Thank you very much. That was a very intimate rendition of from Jason. Yeah.
Lee, first time I saw you guys was way back at the CNE Grandstand in Toronto back in 1974.
Wow.
One thing that, that's a long time, I know, and I've seen you guys a lot since then. But one thing jumped out at me when I saw you guys then, and it's the same now, even when I watch you guys on the videos on Chicago Premium Access. You, Walt, and Jim look like you're having the time of your life up there. And there's times I see you talking, and I think to myself, what the hell's so funny?
Well, I'll tell you, it is so great to be able to do this for a living all this time later. We had no idea. We thought, I mean, you said that in the beginning of the interview. We thought we would have one, maybe two albums, and then sort of move on with our lives. But this has become our life, and the music has become, the music of other people's lives. So there's nothing that if we couldn't have fun, that would be a travesty.
Walt says there's a spiritual wire between himself, Jim, and you. Is that a case of kind of knowing exactly what the other guy's going to do? Pretty much, yeah. It uncannily, we sometimes we take breaths at the same time, and we don't know that we're going to do it. It's just a matter of playing together over and over again, where you just sort of know where someone else is going to be at any given time. Now, that also leads me to wonder, to your point, when you're on stage, and we all know that you have them, you may not want to admit them. Maybe Walt's having a bad night or Jimmy's having a bad night. You obviously know that they're having a bad night, but the other part of this is how do you compensate to maybe kind of get the pressure off them? You just never stop. Never stop the song. Don't act like you've made a mistake. And most of the time, no one notices. And as much as people enjoy what they're hearing, they don't hear a lot of the things that we hear from our side, because we're there every night and we hear all the little inadequacies that might happen. But if you don't act as though something's wrong, most people never even pick up on it. Our guest is Lee Loughnane, one of the original members and the trumpet player for Chicago, who are coming to Carmen's here in Hamilton on January 30th. Lee, we have what I call concessions to age. In my case, I'm a runner. I know that my best times are, if you would, back in the day. I'm wondering, especially in the early stuff, are there any songs that you really can't do physically because the songs are just so demanding? I think we're able to play them better now than we were then. And they have not gotten any less demanding. But we have learned more about our instruments and where to hold back and where to save yourself and that kind of stuff. So there's a certain amount of getting older is a good thing as well. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering what you do physically to get in shape for a tour, and we'll talk about the number of dates that you do in a moment, but what do you do to get in shape for a tour? And then the other part of this, when you're on the road, what do you do to kind of stay in physical shape? Well, I do breathing exercises, and I practice my horn, and I try to stay in some kind of a modicum of health, and that's always good to be able to make it through a tour. And I've been eating better later than what I used to when I was younger. I would pretty much eat anything, and I can still do that now, but not to the extent that I used to. So I've been fighting the battle of the budge all my life, and probably not unlike most humans, but it seems to be working out okay. Lee, I have my own personal favorite Chicago album. I'm wondering if I had to pin you up against a wall and say, okay, Lee Loughnane, which album are you most proud of all the stuff that you've done? What would it be? I don't think I have one particular album, but I like the first album, the seventh album, the big band album, the couple Christmas albums. It was just so much fun doing them. And the seventh album was like a catharsis for us because more writers came in, and me being one of them on the seventh album. But that started out being a jazz album, and then it turned into much more than that. And I'm
very happy with it.
And
16 and 17 were pretty damn good, too.
Yeah, they were. One of the things, it's funny that you talk about the seventh album. I actually had it in my car coming in this morning, and people know the Chicago songs, but they don't know specifically who did what. You wrote the song, which was huge in the summer of 1974, Call on Me. Mm-hmm. Tell us where that song came about.
I had come to the point where it was the end of my one of my first marriage, actually, and but the feeling still hadn't gone away where I felt we could still be friends. So I was hoping that would occur, and in retrospect, that didn't really happen. But I was able to get a song out that was heartfelt, and I'm glad everyone liked it.
You know, the other song, and actually there's several on that album, but again, it's like you and I had this psychic bond. I was driving in, as I mentioned, I had Chicago 7 on, and a song that I normally don't play a lot because I really have to be in the mood to hear it is a song Jimmy wrote, I've Been Searching So Long, and for some reason it really affected me, and I had like tears in my eyes coming in this morning. I know when you guys play hits after hit after hit, you look out in the audience and you get a whole variety of reaction, right?
We do. When you start with the intro of the song, you know that people have heard this before. They go back to, in their mind, you can see them going back in their mind's eye to the first time they heard it. So from there, it's really, the onus is on us to make it sound as good as they remember it. And, like I said, these songs don't get any easier, and we enjoy playing them right and playing them as best we can every time.
Lee, earlier in our conversation, I mentioned Premium Access. That's the website that fans can log on to for video, news, and what have you. One thing that jumped out at me recently is you guys really do a good job of social media.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We have tried to put our footprint on the Internet, and since last March, we have begun the building process, and now it feels like we've built a high-rise and filled it all up with working equipment. So I'm happy it's registering with everyone.
Lee, you did the voiceover for on the website for Oh Christmas 3, where you do the voiceover work, and now available at Walmart and what have you. I've already told my boss, if we need somebody to fill in and do voiceover, I think I know the guy to do it. Nice job on that.
Thank you very much. Now, is my voice low enough? I don't you have to have one of those really low voices to really pull it off in that industry? Actually,
radio these days, it's all about personality, and it oozed out on that voiceover.
Very good, very good. Thank you.
Just so you know. Lee, the date at Carmen's, I believe, is the first stop in the Canadian tour, and I've got people pestering me here at the station. Ask them what they're going to play. I'm not asking for your set list, but might we suggest that there will be some familiar songs in the music that you will play at Carmen's on January 30th?
Oh, you can mark your calendar that we will do a cross-section of our entire career, from the first album all the way up through, we probably won't do any Christmas songs because it's past Christmas. I think people are not going to want to hear any Christmas songs now, so you'll have to wait till next year. But it will cover our entire career. Worry not.
Lee, I wonder, because Carmen's will be an intimate venue of about 750 people. Is there more pressure playing in a smaller intimate venue like that than as opposed to some of the arenas and stadiums that you play in?
Not really. Any type of venue. We've played so many different types of shows: small, large, small stage, large stage, arenas, outdoor, indoor, falling down. We're pretty much adaptable to any type of venue.
As we've talked about, it's been 45 years. I'm not going to put the end on this, but at some point, we all say, you know what, we've had enough. It's time to move on. It's time to do something else, or just kind of say, guys, it's been fun. My question to you is, how will you know it's time?
I guess when no one shows up.
That easy.
And pretty much. I mean, nobody comes. You pretty much know you're going to have to stay home.
And
but that's not happening so far, and we have no plans on stopping anytime soon.
You're getting ready to rehearse for the upcoming Canadian tour. When you walk into the rehearsal hall the first day and the guys just kind of stand around, who's, if you would, the musical director, the guy that says, okay, you know what, I think we should do this and this in the set and maybe pull it back to this? Is it Robert? Is it Jimmy? Is it you, or who?
It's a combination of all of us, but we have already rehearsed. We're fine.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just go on and play the show. We're all ready to go.
Which is nice to know.
It is pretty nice to know. Unless you want to change something or change a key,
right,
then you got to work on it a little bit.
You guys, when you started, played an insane amount of one-nighters. You played over 325 when you first started, and yet, all 45 years later, I know you guys finished a European tour, and you were crisscrossing the country. You're still playing 100 or 150 dates per night or per year. Clearly, it's still fun for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the travel is always has been and always will be the hardest part of the career, because you have to be away from the people that you love. But the actual stepping on the stage and playing the gigs, that's the easy part. We love doing that every night.
Lee, the last point I want to bring up with you is this whole event came up because one day I was out for a run. I had mononucleosis in my iPod.
All right.
And
Mongo. I was wondering what song it was that you pulled up.
Okay, perfect. So actually, if the truth be known, it was Hanky Panky into Lifesaver, then mononucleosis. Right. So I digress. And I mentioned that to the gang at Carmen's, and the rest is history. Now, I've seen you guys play it live, and I've seen the result on video a lot. You know what, Lee? There's one thing missing from when you guys play mononucleosis.
What's that?
You guys need somebody to play the claves. I'm just throwing it out there.
Come on up.
I don't know if you realize what you have just done, Lee Loughnane, but I've got that on tape, so we'll have to talk about that at Carmen's.
Not a problem at all. Come on up.
Lee, January 30th at Carmen's, Blue Jeans and Bling, an intimate night with Chicago. Lee, I cannot wait to meet you and the rest of the guys. I'm not trying to make you feel embarrassed or what have you. You have been my heroes, my idols for over 40 years. I am jacked about this night. I cannot wait. Thank you for the time.
I'm very honored, Ted. Thank you very much.